But before that, let's tell you about Washington's latest deregulation push, which has a name attached to it. Donald Trump, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, or ATF, under President Donald Trump's own administration, has proposed rules that basically would let licensed dealers ship firearms directly to buyers' homes. But that would be done only after online identity verification, a background check, and a 7-day waiting period after notifying the local police. In fact, the agency calls it modernization. Critics call it a conflict of interest. Here's why. Donald Trump Jr., the president's eldest son, sits on the board of what we are talking about, working as a paid consultant, and holds roughly a 1.1% stake, reportedly, in the company, with around 300,000 shares. In fact, it brands itself the Amazon of guns, and its business model depends entirely on frictionless online sales reaching the customers' doorsteps. The ATF projects nearly 3.3 million buyers a year. That suggests about half of all gun purchasers would basically eventually use home delivery. Industry insiders expect even higher uptake. The financial stakes are real. Trump Jr.'s shares, once worth over $5 million, have fallen to roughly $700,000. Roughly $700,000, as its stock has dropped 85% over the past year. But that chart could change with the new rule designed to reverse, in a way. The White House and Trump Jr. spokesperson both reportedly deny any personal involvement, insisting the ATF's chief counsel drafted the rule independently. They also said the ATF boss was unaware of the Trump Jr. connection until questioned by reporters. But watchdogs, including a former ATF industry liaison, now with every town for gun safety, noting the industry never asked for this specific policy, reportedly undercutting the consumer demand rationale, allegedly. This is not an isolated case. This is not an isolated case under Trump 2.0. It fits a pattern already drawing scrutiny, from Trump's crypto ventures to family-linked business interests intersecting with the federal policy. Still, each time, Trump and his chorus-singing administration insist there is no coordination, but each time questions have been raised.
You know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. If you have a 401k, how's your 401k done? It's about up 85%. Thank you, President Trump. So we're all profiting. I'm profiting because I have a lot of money and a lot of cash, and I give it to institutions.
The rule is not final yet, but if it clears, it will not just be a gun retailer. It will be a live case study, in a way, of how presidential power and private profit could perhaps be linked, as alleged. In the current decade, on average, more than 45,000 Americans per year, remember, have died from gun violence. Now, Washington's proposed ATF rule would let the dealers ship firearms directly to homes. And Trump Jr. stands to profit, allegedly. Gun control groups warn of trafficking risks. Critics call it policy written for family business, allegedly, not public safety. All right, let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Susan Teherani, who's been tracking those developments very closely. Susan, just bring us up to speed with what is being said right now. These questions that have been raised, and given how gun violence and gun-related laws as an issue in itself is extremely sensitive when it comes to what we've seen in terms of numbers as well.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But as you mentioned, Molly, this is just a proposal. And as far as everyone is concerned right now, the president or the President Trump son, there's no evidence that they would either profit or they are behind a proposal like this. Supporters argue that it would streamline the sale of guns after verification, after identification. Each state has its own gun laws. Critics argue, as you mentioned, that it's very dangerous to track and it might get in the hands of the wrong people in the shortest amount of time. But at the heart of this is the stories that we are hearing right now, and they aren't few at this point, about personal interest, policy, and also how the president and his family may be benefiting. Now, there is concern among Democrats and Republicans that if the Democrats take control of the House, then the second half of the Trump presidency is going to be spent on investigations regarding these, sort of what we saw during his first term. Many people don't want that. However, critics argue that these are sort of the building blocks to build a case against the Trump and his family. So if the Democrats do win the House, then they have a number of avenues to once again either call for possible impeachment, call for subpoenas, and then go back to the issues again that we saw during the first term. So on one hand, we would take stories like this with a grain of salt, but on the other hand, when they come out so frequently, there is a concern whether or not there is a conflict of interest between the Trump family and how they're profiting. But again, no evidence as of yet.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment, Susan. Thanks very much. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.